Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's roundtable discussion event, How AI Helps Us Make Sense of What Learners Tell Us. We're excited to have you here joining us today. I'm Claude Werder of Brandon Hall Group, and I'll
Mm,
be the moderator today for this important topic and one that I think just doesn't get enough attention. So we have a great panel to provide you with deeper knowledge and insight into the power of learning analytics and how AI can help. So let's start by meeting today's panel. I'll start with Duane Draper, Senior Product Manager for Instructor-Led Training at Microsoft. Duane's responsible for Microsoft technical training products, as well as the owner of Microsoft's relationship with our sponsor today, Explorance. Microsoft training products are designed to build technical skills for the company's billions of users around the world, enabling them to accomplish more with Microsoft products. Then we have Steve Lange, Director of Metrics That Matter Consulting at Explorance. Steve provides expertise and insight for organizations to measure, evaluate, and manage their people and talent programs strategically and consistently. And he assists clients in developing and streamlining strategies, tools, and analytics to improve efficiency and effectiveness and
mm,
ultimately increase business returns on human capital investments. And we have Michael Cohen, who's a general manager of the Metrics That Matter at Explorance. MTM is a division of Explorance, and it's a leader in employee and student insight solutions. In his role, Michael oversees the sales, client success, consulting, product, and development teams. And he's been involved in the learning and development market for more than 20 years. So, great group. Welcome, everybody. Excited to hear what you have to say. But first, we want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Explorance. Great company that partners with
mm.
organizations that dare to be brave. A leader in feedback analytics, Explorance empowers clients with solutions and expertise to accelerate the insight to action cycle. So whether you're a commercial enterprise, enriching employee experience, or a higher ed institution focusing on nurturing student success and teaching effectiveness, Explorance Solutions caters to all who harness feedback to empower their key business initiatives. So Explorance has Explorance Blue, Metrics That Matter, and the AI platform Millie. The company facilitates the most critical feedback processes, and this includes course evaluations, 360-degree reviews, learning evaluations, employee engagement surveys, and AI-powered comment analysis, which we're going to talk about in some depth, which is really cool. Explorance is a member of the World Economic Forum or Brandon Hall Group Award winner for excellence in AI, and is consecutively ranked as a top employer by the Great Places to Work Institute. To learn more about Explorance, please visit them at explorance.com. For those of you who aren't familiar with Brandon Hall Group, we're a HCM research and advisory firm that empowers excellence in organizations worldwide through our research and our tools. As you can see, we have practice areas, 6 of them, and many different ways to help organizations be successful. This includes certification programs, including our Certified Learning Strategist program, which also provides information and practice on learning analytics and learning measurement. Your participation in Brandon Hall Group's research survey is one of the most crucial components of our insights and thought leadership. So if you have a few minutes to take a survey, it'd be great. There's 2 open, and we're going to be launching our annual learning benchmarking survey in the coming weeks. So you'll have links in your handout, or you can always visit brandonhall.com. Oops, I jumped ahead. So now just a few logistics. We'd love you to ask questions and add comments in the chat. Throughout, the webinar is being recorded. We'll have we'll share a link to the recording and a PDF of the presentation via email in 24 hours or less. If you'd like to download a copy of the presentation, there should be a link in the chat as well. We really encourage you to participate in the chat, bring in your comments during the discussion, and we'll try to react to those as we go and also probably answer some of your questions as we go. So at the very least, I hope you join in on the chat, identify who you are, pop in, say hello, let us know where you're joining from today. But we really hope you'll participate actively because that really makes the discussion much more valuable. And finally, before we get started, we will have a raffle at the end of the roundtable discussion today. Everyone attending is eligible for a drawing of a $100 Amazon gift card. We'll announce that toward the end of the hour. So I hope you'll stick around. So let's really get into it now. Here's the agenda. We're going to start with a discussion on the great potential of analytics and learning, and then go from there on how AI can help L&D make sense of what learners tell us, and then really drill into the foundations of success. And I have a great organization in Microsoft to talk about their journey, as well as the insights from Explorance. And then we'll wrap it up with some key takeaways. And if there's any time at the end, hopefully we'll have some time for additional questions. And so let's get started with the great potential of learning analytics. And Michael, we'll start with you about how can analytics really help L&D better understand what they need to do to deliver high-impact learning.
Well, thanks, Claude, and thank you for facilitating this panel discussion. I think as a baseline metric for learning analytics, the big question, the common question is learning being applied back to the job, and is it driving value for the business? It's, it's a basic question, but it's really the fundamental question that drives why organizations want to measure learning. And the question's been around for a long time. It's what we hit our clients over the head with when we talk about the metric that we call scrap learning, which is defined as the learning that is delivered or consumed but not applied back to the job. When you understand if there is scrap or if there is unapplied learning, and you understand what's causing scrap, which is not necessarily always connected to the quality of the content or the delivery, you can do a better job of delivering high-impact learning. Now, there is a statistical correlation between the metrics of scrap learning and performance improvement. And it's sort of like the classic Six Sigma relationship of getting rid of waste, and you then improve productivity. Scrap learning goes down, performance improvement goes up in a very similar way. And we have mathematical relationships of that correlation. There's a statistical correlation based on data we've collected from hundreds of organizations over the years of when scrap learning goes down, performance improvement goes up. So figuring out how to bring down scrap will cause performance to go up, and you can monetize. So that's a starting point of how organizations can start delivering high impact learning. So I'll stop there and let others jump in.
Yeah, I think one of the potentials of learning analytics was realized during the pandemic. So every single company in the world and every single L&D organization in the world suddenly had to stop delivering in-person instructor-led training and go virtual. Everyone was in the same boat, and they were worried that suddenly the training was going to suffer. They were just panicking about it, except for folks that were doing things strategically and consistently, which is a lot of our clients, because they were L&D as a function was waiting to go virtual. Now, not all at once like that. I'm sure we didn't want to just turn the switch on, but as a function, L&D is they've been ready to go virtual for a long time, and it really put them to the test. And what we saw, so we've been looking at data from the last 5 years of our client base and Explorance, and what we saw was that L&D did not miss a beat. People were clamoring for, constantly wanting to know, how are we doing with our virtual instructor-led versus our old instructor-led? How are we doing with our new e-learning versus our instructor-led? Are we still getting good results? And the answer was yes. They were getting fantastic results. Michael just mentioned scrap, and that's the wasted learning. And that actually improved during the pandemic because L&D had to focus their target of what they were delivering, to whom, and how they were delivering it. Now, without learning analytics, they would have never known if they were doing a good enough job or not. They would have made different decisions on spend and resources and allocation and things like that. So now that we've come out of the pandemic, the decision is now based on, okay, now, do we go back to full-time instructor-led? Do we do it blended? kind of like the whole, hybrid work thing. So the answer is it's been a little bit of both, because L&D proved through using analytics that they could deliver value and still get impact and outcomes going to an entirely different delivery mode. So it's just, those are the types of big questions you can answer with learning analytics, because L&D is in a unique position that it touches pretty much every employee in a company at least once or twice a year. So you can use these analytics to really get a good temperature for how people are feeling about your learning culture, about their development opportunities, and just about how learning as an organization is helping to drive business results.
I think we had, because of our surveys, we asked whether a class is online or in person for many years now. We knew before the pandemic, the predominance was online training, virtual training, for our ILT channel. Now that's through a third party, so we don't actually deliver the training. It's delivered by a third party, but we knew that was already there. And everything you say is what we experienced, and we look at that metric pretty. We watched it very closely through the pandemic and afterwards, and it's actually gone up from where it was before. So I wanted to go back to the scrap, the concept of scrap training. We don't actually monitor what people do after the class. We don't, as I said, we're sort of an arm's length from that. But we do see in the comments, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, AI now gives us a great ability to pick these kinds of comments out. We hear from students, this class could have been shorter. There was stuff here that wasn't relevant to my job. There's, we didn't need to go through that. That's too basic. And I think what that's all pointing to is this idea that there's scrap in that course that we're producing, and we need to look at that and remove it, because I agree that it's going to drive up satisfaction, which is my primary concern, but it's also going to drive up that applicability and the ability to go apply it once they get to their job.
And it seems like people really struggle with taking that step and really using that data to then make the improvements. And one of the things I love about Explorance is the way Stephen, Michael, you talk about it. You talk about people asking questions to the data. So it's this relationship that people have with the data. Can either of you talk about that a little bit? I think that's a fascinating way to look at it, is asking questions of the data and understanding what you want to ask it and what you want to find out about.
Yeah, so people often come to me and say, what is the data? How do I know what the data is telling me? And I always tell them, well, data doesn't tell you anything. It's just numbers and pictures and graphs and lines. You have to go in and create some context, and you have to ask questions of the data, which may sound counterintuitive, but I mean, if think of it this way: if you were given a spreadsheet with 15 columns and 500,000 rows of data, would you just go in there and start looking at the data? No, because you'll never find what you're looking for, because you haven't primed yourself with knowing what to ask. So you've got to have a bit of curiosity. You have to know what exactly are you expecting out of your data. You're asking a question. What are you expecting to see? What is interesting to you? You see a certain score. What's impacting that score? Can I look at demographics? Can I look at a location? Can I look at who's attending? Are they people that have high tenure or not? So it's these types of questions. That first question you ask on a survey, you get that answer, but that might not be the final answer. It might not be what is the business question you're trying to ask. I'll go back to that again. That pandemic experience was perfect. The question was, is our new virtual training getting us at least the same results that our live instructor-led training? It's kind of like the physician's oath, first do no harm. So L&D was asking, hey, are we at least as good as we were doing before? And are we doing the right things? And again, you look at, and that's a question to ask of your data, and you see the answer is yes. So good. We know that what we're doing is working. We can keep doing that. We don't have to focus on any more major pivots or changes. Whereas if something wasn't going well, where I did have a client who, something wasn't going well, and in the comments, so they were getting poor instructor scores. They didn't know what was causing it. In the comments, everyone talked about how they couldn't hear the instructors. The instructor's audio was terrible. It was garbled. Easy solve. They decided to buy all the instructors the same headset, shipped them out. They solved the problem in 2 weeks. So it's being able to figure out what are you asking, and then how do you find how do you determine what that answer is?
Let me also add a little bit of what we really try and teach as a framework to this. We really advise that our customers, once they start using our platform, that they take an approach of starting high and drilling down. So, for example, I mentioned earlier the concept of looking at a high-level piece of data like scrap learning or maybe net promoter score. But if you're looking at scrap learning, look at the courses that are underperforming against the rest in relation to that metric. So let's look at our courses, the most important courses that we have. Which ones are underperforming against a scrap learning score? And then look at the major categorical influences that are impacting those scores. So what is of those courses that are performing low in relation to scrap learning? What's causing it? Is it delivery? Is it business alignment? Is it job impact? Is it support tools, et cetera? And then identify the category that is most pulling it down, and then keep peeling back the onion. So if you then understand why is it underperforming, then you can start making improvements. So as an example, we find in particular that for individual professional development skills courses, that often it's a support issue, and specifically a manager support issue, giving the employee enough time to practice the skills, supporting that employee. So if you identify who are the managers that are biggest violators of that, remediating their behavior, you then start to make a big difference. So that's how you start high and you drill down, and that's how you use the analytics to actually identify what you're going to take action on.
So this is a great start, and we're going to drill down a little bit in a minute and talk about how AI can help with some of this. But first, we want to get a sense of, in a poll question, what you're struggling with. What's the biggest challenge your organization faces in implementing learning analytics? And I hope everybody will weigh in for us. So we have quite a few options because we really want to get a sense of it. Is it lack of data integration? Is it insufficient analytical skills and expertise in your organization or your team? Is it data privacy or security concerns? Is it do you have difficulty translating insights into actionable strategies? Is it a limited budget and resources, or is it all of the above? So interested to see what your biggest challenges are. I've asked a question like this before in research, and I'll tell you after people weigh in what is the answer we get most frequently, and then we'll move on from there. So Shay, what things look like?
Mm-hmm.
So 40 was Shay is our producer. She's running the polls for us. 41% said lack of data integration. So we can talk about that a little bit. 29% insufficient analytical skills and expertise. And then it goes down from there. Relatively few answers for instance, difficulty translating insights into actionable strategies, which is good, I guess, because actually that's the answer that I usually get most often when I ask a question like this, is they have data, but they have trouble translating it into actionable strategies. And I think one of the reasons for that is when you have a lot of qualitative responses, if you don't have AI to help you, it's really hard to translate that into meaningful things. So we'll start drilling into that a little bit. So let's move on now. And by the way, as we go along, please feel free to drop in any comments, any experiences you have, ask us any questions as we go, and we'll shift and we'll address those issues, address those questions the best we can. So this next section is we want to talk in more depth about AI and how it can help L&D make sense of data. And so, Steve, you want to get us started with some of your thoughts, and we'll drill down from
Sure.
there.
You know, one of the things that we always drive home, and this is what a lot of our clients are looking for, is speed to insight. How do I do things faster, right? Sure, I can ask a bunch of questions, and you can do that in 100 tools, but how do I get to those insights, right? We saw the number 2 poll question response was insufficient analytical skills and expertise. So anything that helps me get to insights faster, and I'll also underscore probably easier, is going to help. And I think that's where really what AI can do in terms of L&D and learning analytics is it can take some of the time out of our day looking at sifting through our data, so that we can see things a little faster, especially as we'll get into it, as Duane will help us look at it, is in terms of the qualitative data. The quantitative data, it's pretty easy to do charts and graphs and dashboards and things, but often it's hard also then to summarize all that stuff into, well, what does it really mean? What actions should I be taking? Are there any recommendations here? Are there any red flags that come out of this data? Where should I be paying attention to? Right. That's what we try to do too, is manage by exception. And I think AI can really help us do that. And knowing what we're asking of it, you still have to be able to ask good questions, right? For those of you that use ChatGPT or Gemini or any of those types of tools, you still have to be able to, ask really good questions of it. But that's, I think AI can help get us better answers and get them faster.
Yeah, I think it's about accelerating the ability to analyze large amounts of data in predictable ways. That's why at Explorance, our first dive into AI was in text analytics. And I'm sure we'll be going further into other areas of generative AI. But that was our first dive because we thought that's where we can make the biggest impact. Because when organizations receive thousands of open-ended comments, it can be impossible to efficiently review them and to understand them in terms of, as Steve said, what should you be doing more of, less of, start, stop, and so on. And then there's the other factor of, are there needles in the haystack that you're going to miss? So when someone tells you something that you never would have seen about something that is potentially a problem, and if you didn't see that, you would have missed it, it can cause irreparable harm to an organization. So that's what we believe where AI can start making a difference.
Yeah, that was actually one of our first experiences. We found we get roughly 30,000, 30,000 verbatim responses a month. There's obviously no way we can read through those. And we found through the alerts and Millie, the tool we're using now, we found a couple that were, this trainer is using, derogatory language, and that's certainly not what we want in our classes. We aim to be very inclusive. And so we were able to very quickly identify, reach out, find that trainer, put together a pattern of behavior and remediate the situation. But it was, we would have never seen that.
So what else do we want to drill down in here?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, the big thing is just getting through. There's no way we'd be able to. People think I'm crazy because I try to read about 100 verbatims a week, and people think that's excessive here. So there's just no way we have time to just to read through there and collate it into an insight. And so for us, it's just imperative that we have tools available to us. So as soon as we saw, as soon as Millie was brought up to us late last our fiscal year, we jumped on it, and we've had some really great results so far. So
I think that there's another interesting component of where AI can help organizations. I think in general, there's a tendency for learning groups to make anecdotal decisions based on what some of the structured data is telling them. They form hypotheses and then they look to justify that. And then often they'll do what their gut's telling them, like, this course is long in the tooth, we should retire it, or something like that. Data might tell them something else. So what AI can do is it can really help you understand if you're going to be making a decision that's your gut, maybe it's wrong, and the text analytics can point that out to you very quickly.
Yeah, we've found I frequently find myself selling ideas of how to improve our courses, improve our experience, make changes to our trainer program, and so on. What's really powerful is finding those nuggets of the learner, the student, telling us, hey, this didn't really work for us. And then we can look for that comment across many students, and we can really kind of quantify that sentiment. And that is really powerful when you're trying to drive change through organizations that you're not directly part of, but you need them to fix things to make the whole experience better.
One of the things that some of the attendees said in the poll was about the integration issues that they're having.
Mhm.
What, Duane, or any of you, what are some of the most common problems, and what can organizations do to try to address the integration problem?
I know for us, I can talk about us, and I think Steve and Michael have experience with many more organizations, but for us, we worked hard. I own our learner feedback strategy, and I make sure that whenever we have a survey that's going to a learner, it has common questions on it, regardless of the experience. Now, there may be additional questions that are specific to the other things that we're doing in those other channels or programs or whatever, but I try to have a common set across the overall experience, the content, the trainer, and then the delivery. And then we have open-ended questions. That helps our data teams integrate and pull that together into a more cohesive view. Now, I think we're still learning how to apply AI to the comments and how do we merge the topical, the differences in topics across those channels or programs, but making sure that those surveys, the data you're gathering is as consistent as possible is very helpful.
I'm not sure what the underlying cause of or lack of data integration means. Is it capabilities, or just don't know how, or what it might be? I know it can be a speed bump. Obviously, if you're integrated, things are easier. You can automate things a little bit more. It's less administration time, right, Duane?
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about trying to set things up for every single learning event or piece of content that you're delivering. I think
Right.
where maybe the difficulty lies is that L&D and corporations in general, they just the tools that they're using, they're just their technology stack is just exploded over the last 5 or 6 years, and we hear from our clients they're trying to now reduce that. So
Yeah.
you think about, there's a lack of data integration, and I think part of the issue is, as tools are going out, what's replacing them, and how is that maybe causing our integration to also maybe crumble or break down, because what used to feed this system now no longer exists. How do we take up the slack for something like that? So it's a real concern, but it shouldn't stop you, I would say, from doing anything with learning analytics. It just, you just have to plan that it might bring you a little bit more time that you might have to spend upfront initially until you find a good tool and a good integration process that you can and you also decide too, what's the single source of truth anymore when you're integrating. I don't know about you, Duane, if is it an LMS, is it an LXP, is it another vendor's tool plus another vendor's tool? I mean, I think that's the hard part too, is which tool is serving as this single source of truth.
Yeah, I think I sort of break that into maybe three levels. One, you've got the provisioning of the surveys, and that you've got the platform that it sits on. And we actually had two platforms, as you may know, and we're merging one of them onto Metrics That Matter for exactly this reason. It comes through in the same data pipelines, makes it easier for our data engineering teams to get all of that data on the same dashboard and the same slides for monthly business reviews, and all of those, rhythm of business kinds of things. That's a challenge. That's a lot of work. And we ran into problems where that data engineering team didn't understand some nuances, and it was a little bit of an embarrassment anyway. So I think there's several layers of integration there.
We
Obviously,
find
automating all of the class setup and all of that's super important as well.
we do find that when we get into conversations with prospective clients or existing clients, when there's RFPs, that this concept of integration is always at the top of the wish list. And essentially what we're talking about is interoperability across systems. But we do continue to be surprised by how many IT organizations don't have the comfort or the experience in implementing APIs across systems. And an API is becoming sort of the de facto way in which integration happens. When you aren't able to make those API connections happen, it prevents data from being able to move back and forth, and it prevents organizations from leveraging things even outside of a platform like Metrics That Matter. So, for example, where organizations use business intelligence systems like Power BI or Tableau, if you want to do this in a powerful way, you want to have feeds that are coming from your ERP system, from your HRIS system, from your LMS, from a learning effectiveness solution like Metrics That Matter, and you create this combined dashboard where you're updating information in a holistic view, and then you can start to see correlations. You start to really understand the correlations of your financial data and your learning effectiveness data and your HRIS engagement kind of data, retention data, and how those things are in relation to each other. Without integrations, you can't do that. That's why integration, I think, is a really important skill set for IT organizations to have.
Yeah.
So one of the things we've found is that organizations are really just beginning to understand how AI can help. And so we're going to spend probably most of the rest of our time talking about the foundations of success to build data analytics and leveraging AI as much as you can. But before we do that, I want to get a sense from everybody on just where you are in terms of your understanding of how AI can impact learning analytics. I know we haven't had a lot of questions or comments yet, but feel free, and we'd like you to answer this question, but also just add any detail or experiences you're having. So what is your rate of understanding of AI and how it can impact learning and analytics? Is it great? Like you should be on this panel and talking with all these folks? Solid, meaning you've got a strong foundation and you're really learning continuously? Or are you developing, just you have a basic understanding, but making some progress? Or you're just getting started, so really basic, and then maybe you haven't started at all. You have really no real understanding yet. So just want to get a sense of where everybody is, and then we'll talk a little bit more. So yeah, so we've got about 88% are either just basic getting started or having a basic understanding and trying to build on that. And that's pretty typical of what we see. And what I've found a lot is, as a researcher, I talk to a lot of providers and they're all in on AI. And there's a few leading organizations like Microsoft and others that are really working at this and have had a journey going on for a while. But most people are really just getting to the point now where they're beginning to take off. So that's why I think this conversation is so timely. So let's delve in now a little bit to the foundations for success for learning analytics and particularly leveraging AI. learning analytics. So Duane, I know you've been on a journey for a long time. Why don't you get us started?
I was gonna say I had to check that we were just getting started in the survey there.
Oh,
I
okay.
probably shouldn't be on the panel, I suppose. No, we've been we started really at the beginning of our fiscal year in July, and saw the opportunity. Finally had a way to, as I say, sift through all of that verbatim feedback we get. We knew there were answers in there. We knew there were insights. We just didn't have the means to dig in and find them. I'd like to say that we started out by planning and creating this pathway that gets us to success. When we first started, we put together a sort of a screenshot and put that into one of our quarterly business reviews, and that really piqued the interest of our executives that were in that review. Hey, wait a minute, what is this? Got lots of questions, had a great discussion, immediately sold them on the idea that this was a way we could really unearth all of those insights that are hidden in those verbatim comments. And so from there, we spent another couple of weeks building out a plan. We established, I think one of the things that worked really well for us, or is working really well for us so far, we established a group of champions across the organization, one or two in each functional area. So we've got one in our channel management team and our marketing team. We've got one in our programs team. We've got 3 or 4, I think, in our content development team, and so on. They have now access to Millie. We upload all of our data each month, and they're able to, we break it into a couple of groups to make it a little bit easier on them. And their role is to come to our quarterly business review prep meetings with insights from their areas. We're finding that works really well. Some of the things we've done, we started out working with their managers to buy time on their calendars. And we also work really hard to give them opportunities to show off their new insights, their new capabilities across the organization. We have some open space kinds of discussions, actually very similar to this webinar. And so that gives them some incentive to go do a good job on it. We're now finding content developers who want to, they're preparing to redo their curriculum, for example. They will reach out to those champions and ask for help. Hey, can we dig through my verbatim feedback so I make sure I capture all of that insight in my revisions? So that's been really powerful in terms of getting those insights out to the people who are actually using the information. That's probably, that's probably the biggest thing we've done that has led to our success so far. I think we still have a long way to go. We're still learning, but that's been a really pretty impactful approach for us.
One of the things that I want to start this conversation and maybe have Steve go into more depth on this is that what we believe is a really good, strong foundation is to make the connection between structured data points, which are rating scores, Likert scores, etc. That's structured data, and then to use the text analytics to really allow you to go deeper and get more prescriptive. So the connecting of the structured data and where you see trends and patterns, and then to use the text analytics to help you understand what's underneath that, that's where we think you can get tremendous power.
Yeah, so you use the qualitative data to really bring the numbers to life and give specific examples.
Right, that's how you get underneath it. We were in a conversation the other day with a client saying, I see what this number says, whatever 3.8, 4.2, but how do people really feel about it? And that's, it was an interesting question. It's like, well, that's where you can use the analytics piece, right? That's the text analytics. People talk about sentiment a lot. They want to know how are people. It's one thing to say they're rating something, but how are they really feeling about it? What's their sentiment? And then not only just how are they feeling, but what are they saying? So you go from a rating of a number, impersonal, to a sentiment, to this is what people are actually saying. And in today's culture and world, we've got to be listening to our employees a lot more efficiently, a lot more often. The once or twice engagement studies, it's not enough. And we've got tools now that enable us to do it. As I said at the top, L&D is in that unusual space where we touch people every day. We're the only organization that can say that, right? So why aren't we using this opportunity to get this feedback, you being able to use AI to really drill into what are our people saying? Every company says, probably one of their top 5 things is our people are our most important investment. So this is a chance for us to be using a tool like AI to really put that to practice by listening to what they're saying and connecting that to some other data points, so that we can use both to come up with what we're going to do with it. How are we going to take action? What decisions are we going to make? And then how do we close that feedback loop, right? So we've got all of our learners giving us feedback, but they have no idea what we're doing with it. So then how do we close that loop to where we can let them know, hey, based on not only what you've been checking off boxes on the survey, but what you've been writing in there and telling us about, we took action on, and here's what we did.
Yeah, and then an example could be something like, if you're looking at Net Promoter Score, that's a structured piece of data. If you're able to look at Net Promoter Score and break that down by specific departments in your organization, that's a more discrete breakdown of a structured score. If you see that the Net Promoter Score is lower in specific departments, and then you can look at the comments that are coming from those departments, and you can say, well, the people who are giving us low Net Promoter Scores in that department, what specifically are they saying? That's how you're going to start to understand, okay, our Net Promoter Score is low. It's low because of this particular department. And if the people who are our lowest Net Promoter are our detractors in that department, what are they telling us? That's how you can start drilling down and get to the meat of very prescriptive uses of data that you're getting.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when we look at data from our conference or webinars of how misleading the numbers can be, right? Somebody can give you a 3, which is, oh, that's not so good. And then you read the comment and they rave. Or vice versa, somebody gives you a 4, but then tears you a new one for something you missed. And so the context of the comments and being able to use AI to sift through those and get some context is, I think, critically important.
Yeah, sure. Without giving an overt commercial, what we think we've done that's different is, rather than just showing sentiment, which you can do without necessarily a full AI solution, what we've tried to do is be able to identify themes and the sentiment of those themes, and then where there are recommendations that are being made about those kinds of themes. So that's the drilling down and using the very specific machine learning to be able to give you that discrete kind of analysis is different from just looking at, okay, we're getting comments and it seems like it's a positive comment. Doesn't really help you make a decision.
Yeah. That's what we'll look at. We'll filter to the lowest scores, the 1s and the 2s. And that's exactly what we're looking for, is what are the topics that are flaring up there as most frequently mentioned. And then what can we do about those things? Sometimes there's not a lot we can do, but where there is, that's where we want to focus. So,
one of the things I hear a lot that maybe we could talk about for a couple minutes is I hear people saying, well, there's a lot of data we'd like to use, but we don't even know where to get started, and we're kind of running in circles, trying to figure out what to do. So, how should organizations go about starting an AI-driven analytics practice? Like, do they need to get a pretty good sense of what they're trying to solve for to begin? What's the best way to start if you're just finding your way?
I think where we started is we knew we had this big bucket of insights that we didn't have a way really to parse out and make sense of. And so when a tool came along, we dove in and I think some of it is you just have to dive in and get your hands dirty and see what you come up with, and then where to go from there. And we started out with a very small team. There's two of us that did some evaluation and came up with a rough path. And then, like I said, we got it in front of our executives, and it's sort of it's been pretty organic from there. Like we're now seeing just 3 months in, I guess now, since we were able to do that now we're getting we're getting requests from across the company for how we can use that capability. So
go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
I think it's like a lot of other things where you want to create a business case for it. Like, what problem are we really trying to solve by bringing in an AI type solution? Are we prepared for, what will happen if we bring it in? What happens if we don't bring it in? Asking questions around, what is your, and Duane, I don't know if you guys, what's your risk tolerance, right? I know, some clients, they're not bringing in any AI tools just because you see things kind of blowing up on them all over the place. And a lot of IT groups, so going back to data integration, a lot of IT groups are like, we're not bringing anything into this company until these things have been out for more time, because we don't want to battle the risks of leaking data or just people getting through our firewalls or anything. So I'm not sure if Duane, if you guys had that challenge around just the risk exposure that it might provide.
Yeah, we're probably internally we're being challenged to use AI wherever we can, whenever we can. So there's very much a push to apply it to become more efficient, deeper, smarter, all of those things we want to be. We have, as obviously, we have, Bing Chat, which is based on OpenAI. We have lots of tools. We have co-pilots across all of the majority of our products that will continue to grow and be a big investment area for Microsoft. So we don't have that. We don't have a lot of hesitancy there. I think as you look at the analysts, the people who are actually digging in there was a hurdle that we had to get over of, do we trust it? Is it categorizing things in a way that makes sense to us? I think the thing that was a big selling point for Millie for us was it was trained on a training set of data. So it talked about instructors and classes and sort of had natural categorization there that made it very easy to use. And it was very applicable. So that was a big benefit for us. Beyond that, I think it's been pretty seamless. People are encouraged to use AI and showcase where it can be used and how it can make us better. So we didn't have that, but I have heard from others that there is that reluctance.
Yeah. Going back to a point that Steve made earlier in terms of comment data, is I think because organizations have not had the ability to really analyze large amounts of comment data in a very efficient way, organizations have actually tended to ask less open-ended questions because it's a waste of time, because they'll never read it, because it'll make the survey longer for the respondents. But now, if you have the ability to analyze it very efficiently, you have the opportunity to think through and ask really good questions, open-ended questions. because you can actually take action on them. So I
Yeah.
think you're going to see a trend line over time of organizations actually asking more comment, open-ended questions, because AI will give you the ability to analyze it.
Yeah, I don't want to imply that we don't have a lot of governance around it. We've got layers of sort of compliance and governance that is being applied to this. And so we do have safeguards in place, but we're also being encouraged to sort of go push that envelope.
Because you got that buy-in from the top, right, early on. So
Exactly.
you're getting that support that you need. We have a couple of comments about the risk exposure being big in their organization. So maybe we can spend a couple of minutes talking about a little bit more about the importance of infrastructure management and governance. What are some of the things that can be really helpful to help people address some of these risk concerns? We talked about governance. Can you drill into it a little bit more?
I can talk about it from my perspective, which is as a user, it can be really frustrating because I have a product that I want to make better. There's insights in this data. I want access to that data. There's rules about how our data engineering teams allow us to have access to that data. There are, privacy concerns. There's, we have, because we deliver training in some programs through employees, we have to deal with data access approvals through some of the European worker councils. We use those ratings to factor into their annual reviews. So there's all kinds of those things. So for that, it's frustrating. Now, all of that stuff builds trust, though. It builds trust and credence and sort of credibility for that data set as well. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Okay, we
Yeah,
want to. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
well, and it's too, it's part of the governance too. It's about the questions that you want to answer and you want to clarify is, how are we using this data?
Yep.
You want to give users and employees a sense of confidence that we're not, the AI isn't, it's not tracking your personal information, right? We don't know who is saying this one thing. It's not, it's not tagging it to your HR record or anything like that. Data is reported up at an aggregate level. There are some instances where, something there might be an offensive comment, right? And an AI tool will tag that. And so that, whoa, that's not good. I need to talk to the instructor of that class and see maybe what happened. So there's certain things like that. But for the most part, you got to be able to have some type of a governance plan that says, this is how we're using the data. This is how we're not using the data. This is how we are ensuring that the data is not going, outside of the walls of our company. Right. That's one of the dangers of the public version of ChatGPT, right? People keep feeding all of their personal stuff into it, and that's feeding that model. And that's what leads to things being sometimes not so great when you ask it. Whereas tools, like that Microsoft's developing and Explorance is developing, it's meant to, live inside of just your data stream. So when your data is not necessarily feeding up to the Millie qualitative AI solution. Overall, it's just living inside your house and doesn't circulate around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask one more poll question and move on to key takeaways here as we are slowly running out of time or quickly running out of time. Last poll question is, now that you've heard about some of this, how will AI impact our organization's learning analytics over the next few years, do you think? And I know you're probably just thinking about this, but give us your thoughts. Is it A, improving the ability to personalize learning? B, enhancing predictive capabilities for identifying learning needs? Or maybe automating routine tasks to free time for higher level work? Maybe better demonstrating the impact of learning, all of the above? Or, you really don't know, you're not sure yet, you're just formulating. And then as you give us those answers, I know we had one question that Stephen and Michael have answered. If there's any more questions, we'll try to squeeze a couple in, but we also want to do key takeaways and then our raffle prize. So Shay, how's the poll looking? Real quickly. So 33% are saying the most frequent answer is, I'm sorry, the most frequent answer is all of the above. All of these things are things that you think AI will impact, which is great. Great. And it's great also that only a few are really not sure what the impact will be. So you're obviously giving this a lot of thought. And then 33% are saying automating routine tasks, which is a pretty common answer. That's what people are using it for, I think, as they get their feet wet. So let's go to each of you and get your maybe key takeaways to wrap us up here. Steve, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think whatever you're doing, whether it's learning analytics with AI or without AI, it's you want to have a process and plan for how you are going to use the data. Who are you communicating it to? How often? Where? What are you using it for? Again, and being able to close that feedback loop, because again, we find survey fatigue isn't so much tied to the number of surveys or questions. It's the fact that people don't have any confidence that you're using that data to actually make decisions and take action. I think too, it's you have to know what questions to ask, even if you're using something like a Chat GPT or whatever. There's skills around writing good prompts and asking good questions, and you still have to do that with your data, whether or not you're using AI. AI is just like anything else. It's a tool, right, that you have to learn how to use. The quote I've heard is AI might not take your job, but someone that knows how to use AI might. So
right.
the better you get at being able to ask questions of your data, and then being able to translate that either into a learning analytics tool or one that has AI or one that doesn't have AI, you still need to be able to know what is it that you're asking, what are you expecting to see, and then how do you what's going to be your decision points for for the answers that you get.
Okay, we're running short of time, so Duane and Michael, real concise answers. What are your key takeaways?
I think for us, it's a journey. We started small. We're trying to go faster, and I think we definitely see the potential. So we'll continue to build and expand what we're doing.
Hey, Michael.
Mm-hmm. And Alexandra, you did identify this is your friend who worked at McDonald's. That's Steve. We have the good fortune of having brought Steve here from McDonald's. I think a lot of really good things have been said about AI. I think it will certainly create a lot of efficiencies. We're really just at the beginning. What I'd like to remind everybody of outside of AI is it's really hard for organizations to get their arms around what you're trying to do from a learning analytics standpoint. I often make the relationship between organizations are used to providing performance reviews for employees against a set of KPIs. That's really how you review employees. If you think about analyzing learning in the same way, think about it in relation to an employee performance analysis. Learning the same way, you review against a set of KPIs, you relate that to a set of big picture lagging indicators. You can then tell a very competent story, and AI is really going to help you tell a very credible story because you have comments. That's the evidence to back it up. That's where AI is going to help.
Great. Well, we'll have to leave it there. We want to announce our raffle winner and then give people, let people sign off and get on with their day. So Shay, can you let us know the raffle winner?
Yes, thank you, Claude. So before we wrap up today, I would like to announce the lucky winner of our raffle. Congratulations to Kayleen Harrison on winning today's prize, a $100 Amazon gift card. We will be sending you an e-card shortly to celebrate your win. Congratulations.
Nice.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks everybody for tuning in today. I hope this conversation was helpful. There's obviously a lot to this. We have to have a lot more conversations to really delve in even more, but I think we have three folks here that really understand the journey and what's involved in it. And I hope we've given you some fodder. So thank you to Explorance. Thank you to Duane for your insights about Microsoft. Thanks for all of you for attending, and we'll see you soon on another Brandon Hall Group webinar. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.